NFL Network's Tom Pelissero is here, and Tom, you and I talked this past week at the TCO Performance Center at Minicamp, and I told myself I will not talk about retro Jordans today, so I'm going to talk about the second most important thing, your takeaways from Minicamp this past week.
I did do some Googling on the shoe that you recommended, so maybe some new J's in the rotation by training camp. We'll see. I think that the biggest takeaway, because it was a short practice I got out there to see, and obviously the Vikings, like a lot of teams, have made adjustments. They're wearing the soft helmets without the face masks. You're never in pads at this time of year, so tough to draw conclusions from what you actually see in terms of the production on the field. But the number one thing that jumped out at me was looking at the size of that defensive line. When you've got Dalvin Tomlinson next to Michael Pierce, the guy who opted out last year, plus the big free agent signing. That's like 659 pounds of beef in the middle of the defensive line. And they're just huge dudes. I mean, both guys are really nose tackles. The plan is to play them side by side. The Vikings defense last season, particularly against the run, did not look like a Mike Zimmer defense, really against the pass too. I mean, they had their struggles there too, but you understood a little bit more with young guys in the secondary. They've invested so much, particularly in that defensive front, in addition to obviously on the back end with bringing in Patrick Peterson, bringing back Mackenzie Alexander, Xavier Woods working alongside Harrison Smith. You get guys back healthy like Anthony Barr and obviously Hunter as well. You know, all those things combined, it's very clear the Vikings feel like they've got an offense that can compete at a really high level. What they needed to do was fix the defense. And Mike Zimmer said it to me early in training camp last year. I've never had a bad defense. I don't intend to start now. Well, they had a bad defense, flat out. There were a lot of reasons for it, but the way that they've invested in that unit, and then just to see it live. I mean, I travel all around. I see all 32 teams. I've been doing this close to 20 years. I don't know that I've ever seen a team line up with two dudes that big as their interior defensive tackles.
I mean, even in your 19 years of covering the NFL, like, have you seen like an offseason like this with so many guys on one-year contracts, so many unknowns? I mean, we're still trying to, work through this pandemic.
Well, I mean, league-wide, I think that this is, certainly unique, but there were still guys who got paid. I mean, the Patriots went on their early spending spree. You saw some other teams very active in the early stages of free agency. I know the Vikings have a bunch of guys who are either in contract years or on one-year deals, but I mean, the Texans literally signed like 25 or 30 veterans to one-year contracts. So everybody kind of approached it differently. Teams like Houston wanted to, see, are there market inefficiencies that we can exploit? One of them was, most teams were not willing to do a one-year, $2 million deal. It was either you sign a guy and give him money, or it's a minimum offer. They go, we'll give you some money. And they signed everybody. For the Vikings, they really followed their pattern. If you look at what Rick Spielman has done through the years, and certainly with Mike Zimmer, they generally target one or two free agents every year. One or two guys that they are willing to pay. This year it was Dalvin Tomlinson, who got, I think it was $12.5 million a year, somewhere in there. And then the surprise, because usually there's one in that second wave when a market doesn't develop on a long-term deal. This year was Patrick Peterson coming in on 1 year, roughly $10 million, I think, with upside contract for him. So two big pieces in that defense. That really fits the Vikings' long-term MO. If anything, what they did different was, use more of those voidable years, which they did on Sheldon Richardson's contract. What those are dummy years. They're not real, but you do that because when you give a guy a signing bonus, you prorate it, so they lower his cap hit. The Vikings did that a little bit more just because the salary cap is down, but they're always budgeting for now as well as in the future, and Rob Brzezinski is one of the best in the business at it.
I mean, there are, I think, 31 guys on this Minnesota Vikings roster that are either on one-year deals or on a contract year. So out of those 31 guys, which one or two or three have to prove it the most this year?
I would say the number one guy that comes to mind is Patrick Peterson, a 30-year-old cornerback who's been one of the best in the business, a top 5 corner when he's been at his peak through the course of his career. But, things got a little bit sideways at the end in Arizona. He served a suspension. They weren't able to work out a contract to keep him there for the long term. This was one of their core types of guys. So now he comes to Minnesota wearing a different number, wearing number 7, which, by the way, is so bizarre to me to watch. Like the first time I saw him, I'm going like, okay, this is some undrafted rookie. They didn't have a number. He might as well be wearing number 0. I'm like, oh no, that's Patrick Peterson chose to wear number 7. That's weird to see, but new number, new team, new defense, and he's going to have to cover. I mean, the Vikings play quite a bit of man-to-man coverage. That's where Peterson's been at his best through the years, has been able to, shadow a receiver. I don't know how much they're going to have him do that specifically. Every time that he sets foot on the field, he's going to be viewed through the lens of, is he done? Is this a guy that is toward the end here? Is he not still the same level of player? In Patrick Peterson's mind, knowing how he's wired, he absolutely believes he can still be that player. And in a defense with so much talent around him, he's got a better chance to succeed in Minnesota than he's probably had in recent years in Arizona.
For sure. I don't know what's more bizarre, Patrick Peterson wearing number 7 or Sheldon Richardson practicing in number 9. But speaking of number 9, there are 9 starters coming back on the offensive side of the ball for the Vikings. We know the weapons are there at Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, new offensive coordinator. Who emerges in this new Clint Kubiak offense?
Well, I really think the Clint Kubiak offense, it remains to be seen because nobody's going to give away a scheme in June, but it's going to be very much a carryover from his dad, Gary's offense. It's going to be the same principles of that West Coast stretch zone, Kyle Shanahan, Gary Kubiak, Mike Shanahan offense, outside zones, play action, bootlegs. I'm sure there's going to be some new twists. I think what's going to be most interesting to see is in some of those critical situations like the hurry-up offense and 2-minute where the Vikings had some real struggles in big-time moments. That's a big focus through the course of this offseason, just how they can develop some kind of rhythm and tempo. Big part of that, too, is just going to be the offensive line playing better. They've continued to invest resources now with Christian Darrisaw coming in. Obviously, they've got Brian O'Neill in place. They've got some guys returning, the Garrett Bradburys of the world. They've still got some questions at guard, but you look at the number of offensive linemen they've drafted in the first or second round for a number of years now. You can't say they haven't invested resources in the position. And Darrisaw is going to be a really interesting one here just to see how quickly his role develops and exactly where the Vikings slot him in as a rookie. Because this is a player who, when I talked to scouts and coaches pre-draft, was a little bit polarizing because he got hurt last season. He continued to play through it, then didn't do anything through the course of the early stages of the pre-draft process. Wasn't able to work out at his pro day. That raised some questions. There were some people who believed, okay, is this a guy who just, is he really going to be into it, the loving football and all that? But then I talked to other people who really dug into it at Virginia Tech and were told, well, think about this. It's a guy who, on a team that was going nowhere, kept playing with an injury, knowing he's got so much on the line in the draft, millions of dollars, and it's going to impact him to have this surgery at the end of January or whenever he had it, as opposed to saying, forget it, I'm done, I'm going to have the surgery in November, be ready for pre-draft process. Some scouts really liked that about him, the fact that he continued to compete for his team. I mean, there's no question about the physical ability. It's just kind of how quickly can the Vikings be able to, get that going for that offensive line that certainly needs it. And that is going to have a big impact regardless of who's calling the plays. If they can solidify the offensive line, be able to protect in those high leverage types of situations, that's going to do a lot of positive things.
Yeah, I think playing through injury says a lot about his character, his toughness, and his will. My last question for you, even with 12 on the team in green, I guess coming back this year, is this Vikings team still good enough to win the NFC North?
Well, you would certainly think that the Vikings, in the way that they're constructed, are aiming to win every year. I mean, there is no rebuild, there is no reboot, and they do have enough weaponry on offense. I don't think anybody's going to question that when you have Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, developing players like Irv Smith. If the offensive line is better, Kirk Cousins coming off of another season where he's never going to be, I shouldn't say never, you never know, but he's not going to be that flashy MVP candidate type, but he's played good, solid football, and he's been productive. And defensively, if they can get back to being a top 5 defense like most of Mike Zimmer's defenses have been, there's no question that they feel like they should be able to compete. But there's still a long way to go. You've got plenty of questions about how some of those new parts are going to coalesce on the defense, about how the offensive line is going to come together, what Clint Kubiak is going to add to the offense. And you mentioned it. I mean, there is still drama in Green Bay. I was there last week for a portion of their mandatory minicamp, and the short version is they don't know. They continue to plan and budget as if Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback, but they're practicing with Jordan Love as they have been through the course of the offseason here. And we may not know for sure until closer to training camp or even closer to the regular season about who's under center.
That's very true. Well, I guess for Vikings fans, July 27th is the start of training camp. July 27th is when the players report. July 28th is when training camp starts.
And July 31st, the united start, all 32 teams, blowout coverage on NFL Network, I'm sure. No one's told me that, but I believe we'll have blowout coverage. And then that scrimmage, too. That'll be fun on August 7th for the Vikings in U.S. Bank Stadium, the first ever that they've had there with fans inside the stadium.
That will be fun, and I hope you have them your Flint Jordan 13s when I see you.
I'm going to Google it right now, make sure I'm finding the right ones.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.